to the Beat Sound Podcast. Come on, Beat Sound Podcast.
Welcome to the B Sound Podcast. Today we're speaking with author Ursula Burger, aka Ursie Wursie. It's my understanding that it's Ursula's mission to help homeless veterans and teens. So welcome to the show, Ursula. And was that description correct?
That was definitely correct. That's me in a little nutshell.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's start out with a bigger nutshell. Who are you?
Well, I am a person who has had years and years and years of experience. I heard that I'm a warrior. I don't know if I look at myself like that. Here I am after, age 50 and just found myself and my calling, I guess, within the last probably 10 years or so. And it kind of started like at the age of 2. So my mom, she was, they call them go-go dancers down in San Diego when I was little. And she used to go through men quite frequently. I think she was married 6 or 7 times. And so she fell on some hard times. And about the age of 2, she ended up putting us in the San Diego Children's Home, me and my oldest little brother, who was probably about year and a half at the time.
Okay.
And so we stayed there for a couple years. And then I don't really know how long we were back with her for, but I remember her taking us sometimes when she went dancing, and she didn't have anybody else to watch us. So she'd put us in this little room where we could actually see the corner of the stage and give us these big glasses of Coke with a bunch of maraschino cherries in it, which she ended up being allergic to, by the way. So it's kind of funny. And I can remember her just, dancing, and there was men around all the time. And it was a pretty insane upbringing.
Sounds like it. So where do things go from there?
Well, from there, we ended up going to a lot of foster homes. There were multiple ones before the age of 5. And it's always the negative things that I think you remember the most, especially as a little kid. And one of the foster homes that we were at, the lady used to keep us locked in her kid's bedroom, and she kept the lights out most of the time. And my little brother remembers this too, and he was so small, and her kids would always wet the bed, and then she wouldn't, keep things clean, and she would put food in there for us to eat. And then once in a while, of course, she'd let us go out and go to the restroom. Well, at the age of 5, actually ended up running away from there.
Oh.
And yeah, so my little brother, he's like, I knew you were gone, but he was so little, what's he gonna do? I don't know how in the world. Maybe she left the door unlocked. But I just remember standing there looking at one of those little bubble gum machines that you can put change in. Of course, when I was little, I don't know, what was it, maybe a penny or a nickel back then, but anyway. So, they ended up moving us out of there. And I think we ended up back with my mom for a little while. And yeah, that was before a new nightmare started at about the age of 6.
Oh, wow. It sounds like you have a really storied past.
Definitely, very much. A lot of trauma, a lot of things going on.
Well, so would you say that's what put you on the path to being an author, or how did that begin?
Well, years later, I'd actually started working at a gold mine in the lab as a lab tech. And there were a lot of people that worked with me in there that were probably in their 20s and 30s. And most of them had little kids. And of course, our shifts were 12-hour rotating shifts. It was about an hour and 20-minute bus ride each way to the mine site, plus your drive from home to get to the bus stop. And so they'd be away from their little kids for, so many hours during the day. And I was going through a lot of harassment at work. And so I just kind of shut up in this little nutshell for a while. But I would always think of how can we explain to little kids what we're doing at the mine. And so it just, this was just like a little burning nugget that was just, embedded in my brain for a while. And then about 5 years later, everything kind of came to a head. I had gotten in some trouble at work for uh, turning in a supervisor for something that shouldn't have been done. So they ended up removing the two women that were harassing me. I got a male supervisor, and all of a sudden my productivity, like, I always kept at it, but one day, I mean, it was like one of those moments, and so and the guy was like really awesome, ex-military Marine, and we just got along so well. And he's like, with the best leadership, he goes, you could do amazing things. And just one day, I had been on the bus going to work, and I just got that idea for actually the first book that nobody has seen that knows me around here. But I actually wrote my first book to teach little kids how rocks get turned into gold at the process lab.
Wow. So is that one of these books behind you, or is that a different book, an older book?
Actually, there's more to the story.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Okay, so when I wrote the book, I got into work and I had read the book to, of course, I had made some changes and I read it to a couple people at work. And they really, really liked it a lot. And of course, back then I didn't know diddly squat about writing for kids. I've been writing and reading ever since I was small, my own stories. And that's how I buried myself, because my childhood, the entire time from the age of 6 to 14 when I ran away, was pretty rough. So I had just sat down and, I'm like, this is the story I got. Wouldn't this be cool if we could share this with people? I think I'm going to go ahead and, get it published, which I had not a clue what that entailed at the time. And ended up getting kind of sucked in by a vanity publisher, because when you don't know anything, it's like anybody offering to, oh yeah, give us, X thousands of dollars and we'll make you famous and get your book out and all that kind of stuff. So, unfortunately, I did go through that. But in the meantime, one day when I was at work, a camera crew showed up, and me being the curious person that I am, I was like, what are you guys doing here? I go, oh yeah, we're doing this, little story thing about, rocks and gold and stuff like that. And I didn't say anything. Basically, what they had told me was pretty much the gist of the story that I had read. Well, I think I was on night shifts then, and the next morning I called over to HR somewhere and I'm like, "What is going on? These guys are here. What came out of their mouth was exactly the story that I had read to someone else." And they're like, "Oh, I don't know. We'll check into it and we'll get back to you." So a few days go by and I get a phone call at work and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is what happened. One of the supervisors in underground, he, came up with this story and said it'd be really good to share with people. So we're going to do like a little uh, DVD or whatever, about it, so that we can go ahead and, share it with families of minors and stuff like that." And I was very unhappy. So I get the next day when I was getting on the bus to go back to work, I get a phone call from the same woman that I had talked to before, and she goes, "Oh, hey, we're doing this, little DVD thing for everybody, and we were just wondering, would you like to narrate the DVD for, the information that we have?" And I was like, "Hell no, that I don't want nothing to do with it." So, and I ended up eventually, due to missing work because of being off meds and stuff like that, I did end up getting fired. But yeah, it was not a great time either.
Yeah. So, something maybe you could clarify something for me. So you didn't like it because you felt like they stole your idea or something like that?
Oh,
Or
definitely,
okay,
definitely, because
yeah.
the story that they gave, was exactly what I had read to them. But, that kind of opened up. But, what they say, huge trauma, huge blessing.
Hmm.
Because as soon as I got that other supervisor, I'm not kidding you. The first draft for that story, I think I wrote in about 20 minutes on the way to work that day because this huge burden had been lifted because I had an awesome boss and things when you're freed like that, especially mentally after so many years of that, was just this miraculous thing that happened. And so that's kind of where the bug first started.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And so what got you to continue writing?
Well, I'd been living by myself for quite a while, and when you're single, you don't I kind of hermited myself after I got fired to the point of, I was selling almost everything I owned, got rid of my horse, all my animals, horse trailer, some of my furniture, almost everything, to where I was down to having almost nothing, pretty much out of food and everything. And I too proud to say anything. That's just, we all have to get through it on our own timeline.
Hmm.
And during all that time, I really thought about, as a teen when I had run away. It wasn't for a long time, but I was on the streets, with nowhere to go for less than a week. And you do what you do, you do whatever you can to survive. And I'm just like, I lived with so many years with that shame of, just surviving on the streets and what I had to do. And my kids' dad he was a veteran. We have lots of veterans in the family. Some of my friends, I've dated, a few veterans. And it's just like, you see people on the street, and I know what it feels like to be there. And I'm like, you know what? I was so happy about getting that first book out just to be able to, share with people that it's like, I think this might be my way that I can help other people and get them off the street. And so it wasn't until after I met Bryant that I actually, figured out that this is what I wanted to do. And then bam, baby, there it was.
Wow. Wow, that's really cool. So wait, so you're saying Bryant is that veteran you met that you worked with?
No. So
Oh, okay.
Bryant Chambers, my mentor, I
Hmm.
happened to meet him after I had gotten rid of almost everything that I owned at home. I had actually been just, this is really, really bad. I had been planning my suicide. And I had no reason. I was just looking for any reason I could to keep it together. And the worst part of it is my kids had actually lost their dad 2 years before. And so I was just kind of flipping through online going, you know what? This really isn't worth it. My job told me that I have no worth, I have no purpose, I wouldn't conform. There's no reason for me to even be on the planet. So why in the hell should I even be here? And then I ended up meeting Bryant, who wasn't a mentor at the time. He was just doing some type of personality test way back then. I think this was like what, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I don't even remember
Hmm.
anymore when it was. He would know. And he just, kind of just started talking to me. And when you find someone that'll take time out of their day to communicate with you, sometimes that's the helping hand that you need to pull yourself out of that black hole.
Hmm.
And so things started to get a little bit better from there.
That's awesome. That's great. Um, so do you credit Bryant for that? Or, I mean, because to me, it seems like what Bryant does is kind of let you know, basically all he does is like, lets you know that you have it within you already, right?
Well, and I would credit him with that
Hmm.
because, I had shut myself off from my friends pretty much, and I didn't really have anyone to tell me that I was worth anything. I'm sure if I would have reached out to one of my friends, all my friends, if they would have known that headspace. But when you're at the point where you're in that really dark hole where you've shut yourself off from everyone, you just reaching out does not even enter your mind.
Right.
You
Right.
are in that dark place and you are not going to tell. I wouldn't tell my best friend what was going on. I wouldn't tell anybody,
Sure. Yeah, I
you
could see
know?
that. Because sometimes it's like to have an outside perspective that's not in your normal circle is really nice,
Mhm.
and it can be helpful in itself.
Definitely, and his demeanor, I mean, I've worked with men most of my life, so I have a little bit more direct approach that's been, women happen to say, "Oh, you're a little abrasive, tell
Mm,
it like it is."
mm,
But it's like when you work in that environment, as a single mom working at sawmills, tearing down pumping units for oil wells, working on your own stuff and training animals, whatever you have to do. It's just, bartending for years. When you're around men all the time, comedy is actually, what kind of gets you through it. And you got to develop a tough skin
mhm.
and you've got to, and that's pretty much how I made it through is, proving to them that I could work my ass off and being more, um, I guess the jokes were probably more grungy than a lot of the stuff they came up with, which basically kept them laughing. They kept me around, plus they saw that I was, worked just as hard as everybody else did, and so it was kind of a good thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, just
And
personally,
Brian's like that.
abrasive and and jokey.
Um,
Because I mean, to me, it seems like
that's the side of him that I appreciated.
yeah.
But there's so many different facets to him. He's got the loving father facet and the loving husband facet and the get off your ass and read a book facet
Mhm.
and the, you're amazing even though you don't see it and just believe that I believe in you. And
Mhm.
but to talk to him, he's like me, he doesn't like little superficial, small talk about, oh, hey, how's the weather? What are you doing? Whatever.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that one of the facets I appreciate the most about him that really resonated with me was the abrasive, jokey type of persona that, I saw in him.
Sure. And so, did he inspire that book behind you? A soldier must. What is it? Soldier must train.
Actually, no.
Okay.
That was he is in the dedication, but I had the one fantastic relationship that I had in my life back in the 80s for a couple years was with a veteran that was near and dear to me. And then the kid's dad, of course, being military as well. So I've just been around that culture. Um, most of my life, went overseas, around veterans just everywhere. And so, and then getting on TikTok, you see more about veterans, what's going on, and the 22 suicides a day, which I wasn't aware of. And that just broke my heart. And it's like, this is all veteran related. And if I can, get off my ass and make a difference in the world, then I'm gonna do it come hell or high water.
Sure.
So, yeah, so the book had already, been pretty much written. One of my best friends that I've known for, over 30 years was retired military, and so, talking to him, I always talk to someone who has actually done the job, or it's a lot of them are something that I've done as well. And so I'm like, okay, these are the things that I need, what's accurate, what's not accurate, and had him, pretty much review everything. And then, Bryant being one of the major factors in my life that kind of helped me to start looking at myself and bringing myself up where I needed to be. That was so important to me that, yeah, he's one of the important veterans that I do have in the dedication for that soldier book.
Cool. Since we're on the topic of the books, and people listening to this might not know, can you take us through each of the books that you have there?
Oh, sure.
Just kind of give us a synopsis of them.
So the very first book that I wrote, he's back behind me, is Will Cargo's Ding.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really a fun book because it's about one of the tasks that a mechanic does. And at the time, I had a lifted Dodge, and I beat the hell out of vehicles. I do. I go out, I go mud bogging. I had a lifted Dodge. I love that truck. He was my baby. I would jump him. I would smash him through everything I could, ice and snow and mud and everything. And so actually I had a mechanic named Mike. And so I was in there, of course, all the time. And then they ended up hiring another one named Will. So Will's car breaks down and he takes it into Mike. And Mike is like, that dinging noise, all it is you just need an oil change.
Oh.
Well, the funny part about it, when I was writing the book and reading it to Mike and Will is like a younger guy at the time, and Mike's a little bit younger than me, not, but older like I am. And Will was like, how come my vehicle is the one that has to break down and Mike's the one that gets to fix it? I said, well, basically because you guys would have to hold hands to do the oil change. And I would have had to find somebody else to drive the car. So that's how that one came about. And
That's
then
fun.
where I lived at, like I said, I was always fixing fence, working with animals, doing things like that. And I had a neighbor that lived, I don't know, a couple blocks down the dirt road. We don't really have blocks. We have a couple acres down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of their kids was actually named Caleb. And so this is how I got the idea for this book. Whenever I needed something, if I needed an extra pair of hands to pull fence or hold up, sheetrock or anything like that, this family basically kind of they're full of love for people. They're always the first ones to jump in. And so since, Caleb would come down and he would help me move hay bales around if I needed to unload a trailer, anything like that. And so Caleb's Fat Blue Pig is about a little boy that does chores for his neighbor, Mrs. Noodle. And he saves up all of his money, and one day his piggy bank gets totally full. And so he goes to his mom. He's like, what are we going to do? So his mom takes him to the bank, and they actually start a savings account. And so it teaches a little bit about, money and saving and stuff like that for kids to be able to learn about that.
So is the Fat Food Pig, is that a piggy bank then, I take it?
Yep, that is. So let's see if I can find a better picture. All of the interiors of all of these books are done by little kids. And so here's a better picture so you can see.
Can't quite see it. Can you hold it up a little higher? Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. And a kid drew that?
Yeah, all kids do all of the interior pictures for the books.
Where do you find your?
What?
I'm just asking. Where do you get the kids to do it? Is this you go to school or something and the kids will do it, or is it something they submit?
So, I have even put onto some of the larger groups on Facebook and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, hey, if you have a kid that likes to draw, get a hold of me.
Awesome.
I talk to teachers. If you want to do, I'm asking about, doing class projects. One of my stepdaughters, her daughter did pictures for one of them. So basically, I just hit up everybody that I can because it's actually hard to find, kids to do that many books.
Sure. Well, that's
And then
that's.
the soldier book came up.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, and that was the last one that I did. I just got that one done a couple weeks ago. And I think one of the issues, especially for little kids, is when, and this would go for any of the books, when you tell a little kid, hey, I've got to go to work today, in my mind, I try to put myself into the headspace of a little kid, and it's like they're going to work. What is work? Work is this place far away that just snatches your parents or whomever is taking care of you, and they're gone for hours and hours. And then it must be a bad thing because they come home and they're tired and they're grumpy a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to take and make that more of a positive experience. So with the soldier book, it's all about Army infantry, and it's about a soldier named Matt, and Matt is actually at boot camp. So it talks about him learning to, him marching, him shooting, missing his family and the sacrifice that, veterans make, soldiers when they're away from home. That's like their life's blood. And so, you've got little kids at home missing them and not understanding what they're doing. And so that was really important for me to explain too.
Great. And do you feel like you explained it pretty well in the book, or is it? I mean, have you gotten positive feedback from it?
Yeah, so I have like a little beta group, which I'm always looking for more people to join. Once I get the manuscript edited and everything, I'll send it out to readers and I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this? Do you understand it? Does it make sense? Do I need to change things? And then, of course, the feedback that I get, is really important to see if there's things in the book that I need to change.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
parents learn a lot from the books too, I think. Even since I'm working on different series and stuff like that, there are things that people aren't familiar with that really, learn a lot too. For instance, people that are against mining. Well, mining is really important because, like, I worked at a gold mine. You've got gold being used for parts in your computer, parts in your cell phone. There's a few cancer treatments that I read about that they actually use gold to that. They have gold that they use for water filtration systems. So, I mean, it's just, I think people don't really realize that there is, a lot of good that does come out of the products that we, mine at the present time.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. Everything has a give and take, pretty much, and it's like you got to look at them both and be objective. But there's certainly good to be had, I'm sure. Um, I was going to bring it back a little bit to you were talking about early on. You signed with like a vanity book company,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's something that musicians struggle with a lot too. Like a lot of people are out there just to make money, and they'll say, "Hey, we'll give you a record deal. Just pay us, $5,000, and we'll put out your record." And they will, but they'll take a lot of the money rather than, and the artist is out $5,000, something like that. Is that a similar thing that you went through? And
Yeah, and that's funny that you said that because, here I am as an author and I never really thought about how other, types of being record music, stuff like that, never thought about how the same thing happens to them.
Mhm.
And it got so crazy to the point where the books were so I wrote the company. I'm like, hey, I release you guys from all rights. You no longer have anything to do with my books whatsoever. Well, the books were still showing up on Amazon, but they were being sold for like $300, $400, $700. And I was really upset because being new at the time, I didn't understand what was going on. And someone had told me later, which of course I can't verify or not, that that's how they move money around from point A to point B. is by buying products and, jacking up the prices so they can say that it's a valid purchase or whatever. I'm
Mm,
not in that world. I don't know.
right.
But so I actually wrote a letter to Amazon and I'm like, "Hey, these books are being sold illegally. I didn't give anybody permission for this. These books are not supposed to be, for these exorbitant prices or whatever." And Amazon wrote back and they're like, "You know what? We're really sorry, but these are all being sold by third-party vendors. Therefore, we have absolutely nothing to do with it and we can't help you at all."
Mm.
In the meantime, my daughter started buying up the copies of that book that she saw online when the prices dropped. So she would find used bookstores that would have it for, whatever price they had it for. And she actually texted me the other night because we almost never talk on the phone. That's just not a thing. It's all about texting. And she's like, "Yep, I think I finally got the last copy." And so I don't see those ads for selling the book anymore. All it says is unavailable. And I don't see it by any third vendor. So I actually just sent another letter to Amazon today and said, "Hey, these books are gone now. They should have been gone 5 years ago. Can we please have them taken off of, Amazon now?" So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I never even thought about that happening in the music industry, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I think there's people out there ready to. This show's all about creative people, and I think that there's people always ready to prey on people who are creative and want to have their dreams out there.
Hmm.
And it's just something to look out for, I think. And so your tale, I think, could help some people. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Um, and so you overcame it by buying them out, basically. I mean, like, are these books ready to be sold under your name now and under your book
They're
publishing company?
actually, I don't sell those anymore.
Okay.
So I had ordered a bunch of them and sold them at like rodeos and to a bunch of my friends and stuff like that. But I didn't do any marketing or advertising or anything like that. I just sold some, maybe I don't know, 100, 200, whatever at some, local events at the time. Did a reading at the library. And when I did the reading at the library, I also read another book that I have written that I haven't even gotten close to publishing yet. And then the kids got to do like a fun little project of making like a gold nugget out of like paper and glitter and stuff
Huh.
like that, so they could kind of understand what was going on. So that was really fun too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds like fun. So this is a rare out of print Ursie Wursie book then. Where
Yes, that's what my daughter and the thing is the story, is actually my reader magnet for people that sign up for my newsletter,
hmm
and so they can actually read, the kind of the process of, rocks going from, just being stacked wherever and going in the truck to the lab, and it kinda in little kid terms explains how those little rocks end up getting crushed and turning into flecks of gold, and I'm currently working I just started last night, I'm actually working on the remake for that book
Oh,
so that because I've got my first, mining book ready, I'm just looking for a cover designer right now and having a few challenges because mine is no longer working through the company that I found her through, and so that one's ready, and now I'm working on this one so that I can completely rewrite it, redo the cover on it, and I'm doing things in sets of 3s, and so that's the second one in the series. And then I've got another one that'll be coming right after that that I've already started writing as well. But yeah, so if anybody wants to know a little bit about from a kid's perspective how, rocks turn into gold, they're always welcome to sign up for the newsletter. They can read the story and then they can always unsubscribe if they don't want to wait, until the monthly newsletter comes out.
right. Yeah, you said, what is a reader magnet? I heard you say that was your reader magnet. I wasn't sure what that was.
Okay, so when people want to get your email address, for instance, they're going to offer you some type of incentive because people, aren't going to just take their precious time and sign up for your newsletter because you're just an awesome person that, nobody's ever heard of and might have a name someday. So you normally people there's all kinds of reader magnets people do. You can write a story about maybe one of the characters in your book. You can write a little novella, I think they call it, a little short story, just different things like that so that you can have something to offer people so that they'd like to, check out your material and sign up for the
Okay.
newsletter.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So what you're doing is offering something valuable in exchange for an email so you can give them more valuable things.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I get that now. I should have known that, but it's just one of those things that I thought, oh, this is some, author lingo that I don't understand yet. So,
No,
all right. Well, I appreciate that. So, do you think that there's any unique skills that are unique to yourself that have helped you on your creative journey?
I think that with what I'm doing, well, I wouldn't say unique skills, but unique to me because we all process things in our own way. And I think one of the things that I really realized is not having a childhood, not, having just, I don't even know what a normal family life is except for maybe, watching TV or whatever way back when. I don't even have TV now. But I think that lack of childhood experience has kind of put me into the headspace. I always tease with my friends that I'm actually experiencing my first childhood now. And so I'm the grown up that you're going to see, getting her shoes soaked because she's out, jumping in the water puddles or just standing in the rain. Um, the last couple weeks on my website, I went out and I caught some lightning bugs with my granddaughter and took a picture of it and, posted it on my website and stuff like that. So I think not having all of those childhood experiences kind of put me into the headspace of, let's see what it's like to be a kid. Let's see what it's like to just experience all this wonder and, there's so much stuff that people overlook every day. And it's just like, when was the last time you caught a lightning bug,
Right.
And I actually had a lady get a hold of me and she's like, I've never even seen one.
Hmm.
So depending on what part of the country or the world that you're living, some people don't have the opportunity to do really fun things like that. So I think just working into, doing fun things like that with simplicity and having that little kid outlook and learning to do things like that and slow down, I think is one of the gifts, I guess, that really helps a lot with the type of writing that I do.
Yeah. Well, and what a fantastic state of mind to just as a human being, because it's like you get to be yourself more so than anything. When you're a child, that's like who you are, and that's all you know. And if you can capture that into a state of who you are right now, that's just I can just see it being a fantastic way to view the world, through child's eyes. So kudos to you for that, because not everyone is brave enough to go out and be themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like to go out and jump in a mud puddle. They're like, oh, I'm too old for that or whatever. And it's like, no, you're not. You're the same
I
person you
still
always were.
have those thoughts when I get ready to do something silly. I still have those thoughts. And once in a while, I'll catch myself looking around and then I'll be like, you know what? So what?
Yeah.
You know, you don't pay my bills or buy my shoes. So if I want to get them wet, by golly, I'm going to go ahead and jump in a puddle and get them wet anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then you experience that joy that's just something that, it's so pure and it's so fun that there's, technology doesn't really give you the same kind of joy that you get from doing something like that, I think.
Right. Yeah. Technology to me is a very cerebral joy where you just kind of think about, hey, that's fun to think about, but it's not like
Right.
taking an action and really, getting your hands dirty, so to speak. So,
It's fun.
yeah. Um, so is there anything that you wish you had known starting out on your creative journey that like if you can go back and tell yourself something?
I think that if I could speak to any of me, I think it would be like the early teen years more than anything, because I think that is the most tumultuous time that we have. That's when, children haven't got to that point yet of, having to figure out who they are and, have a sense of direction. So if I was able to speak to the early teen me, I would definitely say, find the right people to become self aware, because you are worthy of love no matter what anyone has failed to tell you. And that you need to be kind to your body. I was spent so many years in doing, men's labor jobs that I've got busted fingers and, body parts that are just permanently trashed. And so my motion is not what I would like it to be, because I always felt like I had something to prove. I had to be, the strongest girl that was around, and I had to work as hard as the men. And so that actually cost me, some health challenges. And so I'd be like, it's going to be okay. You're going to survive. Learn to love yourself and take care of your body. And if you can get those things down, you're gonna kick ass when you get older.
I think that's good advice. I wish I had told myself to take care of my body too, because that's something I didn't start doing until just a few years ago,
Right?
and it's, you don't think of it when you're younger. And then as you get older and things start not working, it's like, oh, wow, what did I do? I totally neglected myself. So yeah, and of course, obviously the love thing is like, yeah, if I had known, you know, I'd spoke with someone else on a podcast, and they said your whole life you kind of hear just be yourself, but you never know what that really is. And I think it comes down to really, like you said, like loving yourself and just being okay with who you are, like, but finding who that is. I don't know. That's a really tough question. I don't know.
Well,
You have
and
any
it
thoughts?
takes us so long to figure out who we are, especially, I'm not any more special than anyone else,
Hmm.
but I think coming from nothing but a trauma past and just knowing what not to do instead of never knowing what to do, I think really has a lot to do with shaping your character and making you a little more um, able to talk to other people about what's going on, the drive to help other people because you see them struggling and you know exactly how that feels. So I think, a past of nothing but trauma like that kind of, gives you that other facet that you need to reach out to people that are having similar troubles for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I think most of the people who tend to be very helpful have had a traumatic past
Yep, I
because,
agree. I
yeah,
totally agree.
yeah, yeah, it's an interesting observation. Um, so are there, just getting back to what we're talking about, are there anything that you're curious about right now? Like, what are you into right now? Maybe besides um, reading, or I mean, writing.
I paint.
You paint, yeah. I've seen
Yes,
some of your paintings on TikTok.
I love to paint. I actually am struggling right now because one of the TikToks I did, I have a picture on there. It's like a rough textured castle wall that's got a raven in the window.
Hmm.
I call it Raven About the View. And that I have to finish that because the people that bought my house, when they came in, I had a few paintings spread around in my spare room where I did all my crafts at. And I was like, if you could pick any one of these, which one would you like to have? And that one is actually the one that she chose. And sadly, it's been about 4 or 5 years ago. But I'm a woman of my word. I will, if I can, move mountains to make sure that I keep my word, because I think that's one of the most precious gifts that I have. And, is, high morals, high ethics, always keep your word. So as soon as I get that one done, then of course I'm going to send it to them since, obviously I know their address, so I know where to mail it to. They
Right.
probably think I've forgotten about them. And then I just got done sending a painting to a lady in Utah that I have a meeting with tomorrow night that's going to help me a little bit with she does like marketing and stuff like that,
Hmm.
but she's going to design the flyers and take them on the post for when I get ready to do my book signing with Barnes and Noble, because I think her assistant manager is a military wife, and then she's going to do some hands-on teaching me about computer techie stuff that makes me want to poke my eyeballs out with burning pencils. And so she's gonna have, help me do like Google, learn a little bit more about Google and just how to become a little bit more familiar with, my computer and stuff like that. So maybe I won't hate it as much as I do.
I suppose so. If you understand it, you won't hate it as bad.
Right. Well, I do most of my writing. I actually do the first probably 10 drafts in Notebook,
Hmm.
because at least that way my last computer crashed and I didn't really understand about that. But, it's easier to look through 30 boxes of papers and find your notebooks than it is to, deal with all your stuff crashing on a computer. So
Oh, I agree.
I'm all about the analog world, as Kip likes to say.
Right. I'm all about notebooks and stuff too. I got a ton. I got a bunch of notebooks here in front of me, but because there's something about pen to paper or pencil to paper that is tangible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I I mean I was reading some statistic about if you write something down, you're like a list, a to-do list, let's say, you're way more likely to accomplish your to-do list that you wrote down on pen to paper than you are if you write it out on a computer.
I do that all the time because especially with my like little ADD brain, just like ping, 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 ping all the time.
Hmm.
I'm all about visuals.
Hmm.
And I don't even like taking the time to even log into my computer. I do probably 95% of everything on my phone,
Yeah.
but I need visuals and I need to read things and I need visuals for me to be effective a lot of time at accomplishing things. So even like on my health journey, which is, yeah, running into some challenges right now, I would take like colored sticky notes, and every day that I worked out, I would write the calendar day and put them around the door on my closet. And then on the days I didn't work out, I put a wrong colored sticky note. So my OCD like totally hated that. It's like, oh my God, you have an orange sticky note in the middle of all the pink ones, you freak. What are you doing? So then I'd go ahead and I did that for a whole month. Well, at the end of that month, then I would go ahead and take one off of the door for every day that, I worked out. But I'd have to do extra days for all those days that I missed with the other color of sticky note.
Mm.
So I'm all about the writing, all about the visuals, all about making lists. And I get this huge satisfaction, especially now that we've learned to break things down into like those little bite-sized chunks. So if you've got this list and you can just like start picking things off, going, oh yeah, baby, I got that done. It just, you get to me, a lot of people are all about, how many likes do I get on Facebook? I'm like, oh my gosh, how many things can I tick off on my to-do list today?
Right.
you know? So that's a little bit different in that way, I guess.
Well, that's fun. That's fun. Um, so we're running down to the last 10 minutes here, and I always ask this question to everybody at the end. And that question is this: is there anything that I should have asked you today, but I did not?
No, not that I can think of. I actually had wrote down information since I listened to your podcast,
Uh-huh.
and I had wrote it down on there, and we had actually already talked about it because it was what would I have liked to have told my earlier self?
Oh.
so that's actually what I had written down just in case, we didn't run over that. But I think the biggest thing that, and it's not even really a question, is just, I wish people would be more aware of how to help other people. It's not, there's limited satisfaction in everything being about me, 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 me.
Mm-hmm.
When you're like, a little kid and the world kind of does revolve around you in a sense, that's different. But when you've grown up, look back at the experiences that were the most difficult for you and then use the knowledge that you get from that to reach out to other people. Because I feel that the people that are the most effective at reaching out to other people are the ones who have been through it themselves.
Mm.
Because, you can have a very straight laced, PC person, they're not going to walk into a bar and sit there and have a beer and getting into a discussion about, God or, being saved or what you think heaven is or, anything for that matter, and there's been so many places that I've been where you don't look to have those kind of conversations on purpose necessarily, but sometimes you just get busy talking with people about just everything and anything that they've been through. And a lot of times they'll bring up, that perspective and just, kind of insert it into the conversation. And that's when your, little light bulb goes off and you're like, yeah, I totally understand how you feel. I've gone through that. And then you can start talking about how you can pick each other up. And this is my experience. And yes, you can get through it. And this is how I handled it. And, it's just, find a mentor, find a friend, find someone to talk to, find a way to make a difference. And they say that if you're feeling like royal shit, find somebody that's worse off than you are and help them. And sometimes that will take your, little pea brain and turn everything around so that you realize that you're not as bad off as you think you are.
Wow. That's fantastic advice. That's fantastic. So
I just hear it from other people. I don't know anything on my own.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, same thing with me. I feel you there. But it seems like that's good advice. I mean, I've been through some of that too, and it's like, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right to me. So where can people find you on the internet, and where can people find your books?
Okay, so thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
The books are at pretty much all major distributors. They're on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, I guess Kobo, and a bunch of other, pretty much most places, Books A Million. If you can buy books there, there's a chance that you can find Ursie Wursie. If you don't remember the name of the book, then just look up Ursie Wursie. That's pretty easy to remember since it rhymes. And at pretty much anywhere books are sold. And then they can find me on TikTok as simply_Ursula. And then I have my website at ursiewursie.com. They can definitely sign up for the newsletter there. And then Ursie Wursie is also on Facebook.
Fantastic. And I'll put all that stuff in the links below, guys. So if anybody's listening and wants to check it out, I'll also have links below.
Thanks. I appreciate that. It's kind of like I still get embarrassed like putting myself out there and talking to people, but it's getting to where it's more of a joy than it is just, wanting to throw a hoodie over my face and going, oh my gosh, what are you doing? So it's fun. It's something that I'm kind of digging it.
That's cool. Yeah. And you're fantastic to talk with. So, I really appreciate you being here too.
Thank you. This is like, I was so excited when you had said something about it. I'm like, yes, I can learn about this other world that I don't know anything about. So, and I thought, maybe I'll do a podcast someday, start a podcast, but I don't know.
You should. I
don't know.
Yeah. If it sounds like fun to you, what do you got to lose, right? It's fun.
Exactly. Well, in the meantime, I'll just be happy just kind of follow you and hang out and see what you're doing. And
Okay.
I learned a lot from you, so that's really
Oh,
helpful too.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you. Well, just let's say that I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, well, I guess it's time to head out. So, but thank you for talking, and yeah, we'll talk offline.
All right. Cool beans.
All right,
Thanks, Dan.
thank you, Ursula. Bye.